Hey book readers, this is the B-Side Book Review, and today we're going to chat a little bit about Stephen King's Gerald's Game. This is not Gerald's Game, this is my theater lighting book from college. My copy of Gerald's Game, I think's up in my attic. I'm not gonna go get it, I'm not that committed. But let's see, the spoiler alert here is somewhat kinda high. This is kind of a hard book to have a spoiler, any spoilers on it, come to think of it. Anyway, the book came out in 1992, so you've probably already read it. So, get you some coffee. Actually, I think this is more creamer than coffee. And let's take a look at Stephen King's Gerald's Game. Not this. Uh-oh, I just spilled coffee on me. Ooh. Lovey-dovey married couple, Jesse and Gerald, hold up in their lake house for a little romance and games. Yes, games. You know, a little parcheesi, sorry, skippo, and for the really, really wild side, Monopoly. Now wait a minute, I've played all those games and I don't remember ever using handcuffs. Yeah, handcuffs. No hi-ho cheerio and Candyland for this couple. Yeah. Now our story begins with hot 30-something Jesse laying on the bed, stripped down to only a pair of sheer panties, with both of her wrists handcuffed to the bedpost, while her 40-something, overweight, balding lawyer husband Gerald, takes on the dominant role in master and, in this case, bored housewife. Yeah. Even though Gerald is up for the role, the little missus just isn't quite into it. However, this just excites him even more. Well, at least it does until Jesse gets pissed off and gives him a hard kick into some of Gerald's more, tender areas. Now apparently, Jesse is a 4th-degree ninja. Or Gerald was about to keel over anyway, because apparently the old 40-something-year-old has a heart attack and drops dead right there on the floor. Well, that solved Jesse's problem of her husband's unwanted, kinky sexual advances toward her. However, there's now that little problem of being, pretty much naked and handcuffed to the bed in a remote lake house while no one knows she's there. Yep, that's a problem that can pretty much ruin your weekend. Of course, your dead hubby lying on the floor next to the bed, that's a bit of a bummer as well. But wait, Jesse has help with that issue. Prince, the local half-starved stray dog, comes to her rescue and pulls Gerald's dear deceased corpse into another room and, feast upon his dead flesh. Of course, as Jesse's deceased better half becomes dog chow, she is faced with the problem of, being handcuffed. What to do? Now she thinks about using leverage to break away, or perhaps dislocating her thumb, but none of these ideas seem to be feasible. They just won't do. Now, Jessie isn't alone in these ideas, though. Oh no, she has plenty of voices in her head to assist and argue with her. Let's see, there was Nora, Ruth, and let's not forget her creepy father, who spoiled her tween underpants while she was sitting on his lap. Now, I'm not sure what this had to do with anything, but our author, Mr. King, felt inclined to share it with us nonetheless. Of course, there was also the Space Cowboy, reference from Steve Miller's Joker song. Now, this guy made a few appearances. Alright, this was some freaky, deformed-looking dude that showed up from time to time and just stood in the room just to stare at Jessie. More than likely just a figment of her imagination. Right? Yeah, being handcuffed to a bed for the weekend can really whack out your imagination. Such can also make one, pretty desperate. And such desperation leads Jessie to slicing up her hand and thus drenching her wrist in blood, which turns out to be a pretty decent lubricant. Wow. Who would have thought? Yeah, she manages to slip her hand through the handcuffs while ripping most of the hide from her hand and tearing out a few tendons. But nonetheless, Jessie is free. Free at last. Free at last. Okay. Now, what about that creepy space cowboy dude? Oh, he just wasn't a figment of Jessie's imagination. He was some really deformed psycho who was roaming the countryside, exploring his apparent fascination in necrophilia and cannibalism. And, just happened to stumble upon our Jessie while she was in her captive situation. And we thought the stray dog eating Gerald was kind of creepy. Yeah, they were both kind of creepy. Oh, and the moral of the story. Is there a moral to this story? Oh, yes. If you want to play some kinky games with your wife, there's always Strip Trivial Pursuit. What? Strip Trivial Pursuit? Where did I come up with that? Strip Trivial Pursuit. Okay, pretty cool concept here. Wife and husband get kinky, wife gets handcuffed to bed, and then husband drops dead and eaten by some feral mutt. Okay, I'm interested. Now, the part about the necrophilia cannibal guy who just kind of hung out in the bedroom to observe our damsel in distress was an extra super creepy bonus. Ooh, nice touch there, Mr. King. Now that I've given praise where praise is due, I'm still faced with the question of, did I actually enjoy reading this book? Let's just say it got a bit tedious. Yeah, it got really tedious. There were times when I wondered who was suffering more. Jessie, being handcuffed to the bed, or me having to read about it. Yeah, if I had to read about how Jessie wished she would have just let Gerald squirt on her one more time, I think I was going to puke. Of course, Jessie's memories of wearing the extra tight sundress that her perv father bought her, and then sitting on his lap as they watched the solar eclipse was even more creepy. Yeah, and the mention of a daddy soiling her twin girl panties while she was sitting on his lap was mentioned, well, just a few times too often. Way too often. Trust me. No one was happier when Jessie freed herself than I was. Whew. I thought we'd both be stuck there forever. As I mentioned earlier, Gerald's game was a bit tedious, and I started to wonder if the darn book was ever going to end. I felt like revising the old Allman Brothers song, Whipping Post. Sometimes I feel like I've been handcuffed to the bedpost. Good Lord, I feel like I'm dying. Now, keeping up with all the names and personalities of the voices in Jessie's head pretty much drove me crazy as well. I was starting to believe that I was reading Sybil. Yes! All my other personalities were getting pretty confused as well. By the end of the book, we were all just a collective mess. Okay, this book was basically 332 pages of some chick being handcuffed to a bed. Now, even if this was some wild porn book, it would have still gotten a bit stale for me. Yeah, there's just so much that can be done with this plot. Now, I looked up the movie and I was hoping it was going to be a short feature stuck in a Tales from the Crypt or Creep Show or something in that format. But it couldn't be that. Oh gosh, no. This flick was over 100 minutes long. 100 minutes of this girl lying on a bed in her underwear. Wow. Even that visual got pretty stale. Made this book kind of exciting. Now I have to mention the lovable pup Prince, who was that stray that just happened to stop by to munch on Gerald's rotting flesh. Several times, by the way. Now, such made me wonder just how long I could lay motionless in my backyard before my own dog, Sid, started to look at me as if I were a Golden Corral buffet. Yeah, man's best friend, my ass. Now, as for poor Gerald, gee, what a way to go. Now you handcuff your somewhat naked wife up to a bed for a little hanky-panky, and she kicks you until you have a heart attack. And then you get eaten by a stray dog. Wow, sucks being you, man. Well, he was a lawyer, so maybe he deserved it, I'm just saying. Now, main character Jessie did learn an important lesson here. If you're not in the mood, you might want to mention this before you let your husband strip you down to your panties and handcuff you to a bed. Take note, everyone. And I think Jessie had bigger issues than the whole handcuffs thing anyway. Oh yes, and then there was the seriously creepy serial necrophilia cannibal murderer Raymond Andrew Jabot. Something like that. Now, Raymond's Game is the book I want to read and see the movie. Ooh, Raymond's Game. Wow, now that would be creepy. Shivers. Okay, so that was my view of Stephen King's Gerald's Game. The movie came out in 2017, and I watched it on Netflix. The biggest reason I watched it was because of the actress that played Jesse. It was Carla Gugino? Is that how you say her name? I don't know. I just think she's incredibly pretty. So that kept my interest a little bit. But anyway, that was Gerald's Game. So, go read a book. I think I want to sit here and play guitar for a while. I've got it up.